Let's talk about getting over heartbreak, shall we? Welcome to the podcast. My name is Kevin Miner, aka Miner Mine. I'm so excited to have you today. I'm going to give you just one tip that you can use to get over heartbreak towards the end of this episode, because I feel like getting over a heartbreak, it's like depression. It's hard to cure depression, but it's much easier to prevent getting yourself into a depressed state. When I was thinking about this, I asked myself a very clear-cut question. Why does heartbreak hurt? Why is it painful? And there are so many reasons that could be. Maybe you're betrayed, you're lied to, you're cheated on. But perhaps the biggest factor could be that you invested, you gave a part of yourself, and it just ended. It crumbled. Because I feel like human beings, the human nature is always to do something purposefully. Everything that you do, whether it's good or bad, there's always sort of like a reward attached to the end. You're dating someone hoping that someday, you gave a part of yourself, and that's why you give a part of yourself. Nothing is essentially free. It's always a quid pro quo. I'll give a part of myself if there's a promise, or there's seemingly a promise that this may end up somewhere. So that could be the biggest reason why every heartbreak hurts. And why I'm saying this is because I remember breaking up with someone, or someone breaking up with me, us breaking up with each other 3 years ago. And towards the breakup, I'd seen this breakup, I'd seen it coming. But even when we broke up, it was painful. Even while I thought when we eventually break up, it wouldn't feel as painful, it was painful because part of me was invested. Part of me really hoped. Part of me really prayed that there could be something here. With that understanding, then, there's this other version of understanding that could be the most important thing that I say on this podcast. And I realized that, think about every relationship you've been in. If you are like me, then every relationship that you've gotten into has always been, or most of the relationships that you've gotten into have always carried this loaded idea that, I could actually end up with this person. Like, I love them so much, they could actually be my wife, or my husband, or my partner, whatever that looks to you. And why you had that loaded idea is not because you had seen the future. It's simply because your heart felt something. It's because you felt something in your gut. Now, this might be a controversial idea, but I realize this. In every situation in life, you feel like deep in your heart you want to become a journalist. Deep in your heart you want to become an actor. I've realized that sometimes it doesn't always mean that it's meant to be, simply because your heart beats to it. I'll repeat that again. It doesn't mean that it's meant to be. It doesn't mean that it's your destiny. It doesn't mean that it's fate, simply because your heart beats to it. Simply because I see a guitar and I get turned on, it doesn't mean that I'm meant to be a guitarist. It could be a green light to say, hey, you could pick up guitar as a hobby, but it doesn't mean that I'll be the best guitarist ever. Simply because I saw someone beautiful, I spoke to them for 15 minutes and we vibed for those 15 minutes and I felt like I've known them forever, it doesn't mean that we are meant to be. And that idea is sort of changes a lot, and especially how society has been brought up, that if you feel something in your heart, it's meant to be, such that even when it's not working out, even when you're in a toxic relationship, your heart tells you it's meant to be, and that's what you stick on. No, your heart simply tells you what you're into. You see an attractive woman and you say, damn, she fits my profile of what attractive looks like. It doesn't mean that she's now meant to be your wife. She could be married, she could be engaged. So simply because your heart beats to it, it doesn't mean that it's meant to be. And this, especially in relationships, is such an important idea to have, because You could be in a relationship, but you're attracted to someone else. It doesn't mean that you leave this relationship and go to that someone else. You are you're compatible with as many people in this world than you could ever imagine. You are even more compatible with other people than your partner. It's just that you chose your partner. Like, you could go to the United States and you'll find the love of your life. You could come to Kenya, you'll find the love of your life. You could travel everywhere in the world and you will be guaranteed that if you stay there long enough, you'll find a lady or a guy who you're in love with. Once we know that the heart does not necessarily mean that it's meant to be, it's time to go into the next perspective version that I like to call appreciating everything without judging whether it's good or bad. I've realized that if you really think deeply in all relationships that you've been with people that have been in your life, you realize that you let them into your life. And it's because at that moment of your life, you needed them. It does two things. It makes you move on very easily without holding a grudge to someone, but it also helps you extrapolate that relationship in other ways. You could be friends, you could be acquaintances, you could be people that just always appreciate each other without necessarily hating each other. Because most relationships end with bad blood. It doesn't have to. Once you appreciate that you're in my life, but you playing that capacity or that role at that point expired. And that is okay. Which brings me on to the other point. Because heartbreak will always be painful. Because you're betrayed, you're lied to, you feel rejected. You probably had hopes that it would go somewhere. So when it ends, my biggest advice from personal experience, focus on yourself. Like, drive every energy that you gave outside to yourself. Sit down with yourself, figure out your biggest goals, chase your dreams, chase everything that you feel fits in your life, even though it might not be meant to be. Chase it, because you only learn. You allow things into your life that will help you at that period of your life and help you move on to the next stage of your life. So, focus on yourself. What I've realized hurts us is because there's this societal idea that at certain age, get married or settle down. That means stop your life, go find a girlfriend or a boyfriend, come back, settle down, move on with your life. How about you focus on yourself without pressure, with a mindset that is so abundant that you're not worried that you might not find someone, simply because you're so focused on yourself with the belief that on this journey, on this course, I'll find someone who will only be an additive to my life and we can do life together as partners. Probably just if I was driving on a single lane, it will be a double lane because we are complementing each other. It doesn't mean that you stop your life to go look for someone, find them and then come back. It means you figure out your life so well, you streamline your path so well that whoever is coming in, they're just expanding that road or just being an additive. An additive is like salt on food. You can do without it, but food tastes better when it's with it. It doesn't mean that you need them. Most relationships that we get into is because we're depressed, because we're in need, because we feel lonely. It doesn't have to be that way without moving away from their life, such that they have a life of their own. But when you guys are together, it's magic. And that's my tip. Focus on yourself if you're feeling heartbroken. Step by step. You don't have to push it. Step by step. It's like getting into the gym. Step by step. Today lift 5, tomorrow lift 10. But every day you make progress, and believe abundantly that while you're on this journey, while you're working to become the person that you'd love to be, you'll attract someone as dope as yourself, because you only attract who you are. And I want to end this episode here and say thank you for joining me. I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to know how you got over your heartbreak in the comment section, because it's always interesting. We have a show coming soon on October 16th, a live event. I'll be performing live. We had our first one on May. We're going to have our second edition on October 16th. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter to get updated. Converse with me, engage with me. I'm always there for you. And that's it. Bye.